Mari Okada is one of the biggest names in anime today. Her latest movie has just released on Netflix this year, but not enough people are talking about it. Let's change that. Stay tuned to learn what makes Maboroshi so special, and stick around later in the video for a full, in-depth, spoiler-filled analysis on the heart-wrenching meaning behind this film's core themes. A terrible explosion at a steel factory has just shattered the night sky into a million pieces. Everything was about to change, and then nothing would change ever again. After that night, time began to behave differently, trapping the survivors of the explosion in a strange stasis. These inhabitants of the seaside town of Mythology are still allowed to go about their day, although the day never changes. With no escape or contact with the outside world, a never-ending winter now mysteriously hangs over Mythology. Maboroshi introduces us to a town that cannot move on from the fallout, a people perpetually trapped in time and remembrance, an existential crisis after the explosion. The radio plays the same live broadcast of the program heard on that fateful night. A pregnant woman roams around the town with an empty stroller as she carries a child that cannot be born. The kids at middle school cannot age as they lie trapped in a nightmarish neverland, never to see adulthood. While the town of Mythology is forever frozen in winter, the passage of time is still deeply felt throughout the town's inhabitants. So many days have gone by, and yet none at all. Rather than spend its runtime dealing with the chaos that emerges in the wake of disaster, Maboroshi finds its horror in a long-term aftermath, trapping its characters in an existence with no meaning. That hopelessness weighs heavy on Masamune Kikuri, a boy with talent, ambitions, and dreams unfulfilled. So long as the snow continues to fall from a cracked sky, he will remain forever 14. Reminiscent of the movies Makoto Shinkai has made over the past decade, Maboroshi invokes the supernatural and alludes to real-life tragedy. In order to understand what makes Maboroshi so haunting, we should first compare this imagery to its origin. The damaged steel factory looms large over Mythology, a fictional seaside town that takes after its real counterpart, Fukushima, which was the site of a tragic disaster that took place on March 11, 2011. The aftermath of the Fukushima Daiichi power plant explosion has left monumental damage in its wake. It will take several years for the soil and sea to be fully cleansed from its uninhabitable radiation. Meanwhile, the healing process for the Japanese people may take even more time. But after confronting what's likely the worst experiences of their lives, it's my hope that the survivors of March 11 have since picked themselves up and moved towards the future. In stark contrast, no such future exists in the frozen temporal hellscape of Mythology. Maboroshi's director and screenwriter, Mari Okada, takes this backdrop and amplifies a feeling of despair through the use of supernatural elements, ensuring that the townspeople are literally unable to move on with their lives. Maboroshi holds the human spirit hostage at its lowest point and asks, "What am I living for?" This question will go on to define the rest of the film as our characters come across crushing revelations. In Maboroshi, Okada subtly crafts a thought experiment founded on nihilism, with the people of Mythology having their lives stripped of almost all meaning. The film makes the great decision of exploring these existential conditions through the eyes of Masamune Kikuri and his fellow teenage schoolmates. The youth are perfect vessels for dealing with Maboroshi's themes. Adolescence is the time in our lifespans in which we are at our most uncertain and aimless. The time where we are most likely to ask that question, what am I living for? With reality continuously making less and less sense, these teens have resorted to cheap thrills, teasing, violence, tiny acts of attrition, and tests of courage, anything to feel something again. There's a certain numbness that can be observed throughout Maboroshi, be it through the crass, careless way in which our characters interact, or through the film's gorgeous cinematography and OST. Taken in as a whole, the film's atmosphere is edgy, in a manner that feels odd, yet both intentional and essential in fully following through on Okada's bold vision. This thought experiment created is rife with mystery, and its unorthodox storytelling will keep you guessing all the way till the credits roll. What exactly are the supernatural occurrences that have befallen Mifuse? When will it all end? Can the adults be trusted in guiding the people through this strange new world order? And just who is the secret child that these leaders have stashed away in Blast Furnace 5? The journey to solving these mysteries is rich in harsh character drama, culminating in an emotional third act capable of pulling your heart in all directions. My favorite aspect of Maboroshi is its bold willingness to uncompromisingly explore its unusual ideas, achieving narrative and storytelling outcomes that are only possible in its engaging world. Maboroshi is a stunning anime bursting at the seams with intriguing storytelling, great cinematic moments, and raw emotion. But it's also a show with some notable caveats. The first is that there are character moments in here that push the needle too far in terms of shock value and novelty. For the most part, I thought the characters in this show are portrayed well within the show's odd, mature setting. However, there are at least a couple character moments that come across as needlessly gross, while others at times feel unjustified or underdeveloped. These abrupt points of whiplash in the story are part of a larger issue surrounding the show, that being a shortage of organic character development. Notably, the second act struggles to convincingly connect the other thirds of the film together. Key story beats feel like they come out of nowhere, as the screenplay sacrifices coherency in exchange for cryptic symbolism. On that note, despite my praise so far in this review, there's a decent chance that some audiences may come away from Maboroshi dissatisfied. The movie's medley of supernatural elements and shocking twists might leave you not knowing what to think of it all. Thankfully, I've done some of the thinking for you. Let's really uncover what makes this movie so special. In Maboroshi, glass-like cracks keep appearing throughout Mifuse. The only thing that seems to keep the seams of reality together is the steel factory, now dubbed the Sacred Machine by a religious household. After the explosion, the factory now produces a supernatural entity known as the Sacred Wolf, which seals the cracks and keeps reality intact. Eventually, the movie reveals the haunting truth behind these mysterious distortions. The cracks do not originate from the town itself, but from Mifuse's trapped souls. Appears to be the only real escape from this purposeless prison, but the people of Mifuse cling onto a different hope. Mamoru Sagami is the head of a family of religious Shinto priests. In the immediate chaos after the factory explosion, Sagami had convinced the people to deify the sacred wolf. This strange god would protect the townspeople from the abnormal cracks, and eventually allow for the survivors to return to reality. But, as Masamune discovers, there are secrets hidden behind this veil of religious superstition. Sagami's stepdaughter and mysterious classmate Mutsumi Sagami enlists Masamune's help in taking care of a secret girl hidden in Blast Furnace 5. This girl, whom they name Itsumi, is later revealed to be a remnant of the real world that has strayed into a mirror dimension, a temporal realm that formed on the night of the explosion. As proof that reality exists beyond, Masamune and Mutsumi eventually discover that their real-life counterparts have grown up together as adults, still waiting on their daughter Itsumi to return home. The disheartening revelation that their existence is a lie sends Mifuse's frozen townspeople into chaos and hopelessness as more cracks appear than ever before. Itsumi's tumultuous emotions are also understood to be destabilizing the mirror dimension, further adding to the aberrations. It's up to the teenage Masamune and Mutsumi to return Itsumi to the home where she belongs before this illusion comes apart completely. To some, Okada's Maboroshi might seem like a M. Night Shyamalan screenplay, with dramatic twists thrown in from left and right, while lacking rhyme and reason. But there is a deeply symbolic method to the madness, connecting the dots formed between the cracks, the wolves, and the existential crisis that takes over Mifse. But in order to explain what it all means, we're gonna need to enter some difficult territory. This section of the review is going to be a brief tangent on philosophy. No, hear me out. Please, let me cook. Let me cook, please. The good news about all this is that I figured out a fun, engaging way to keep Zoomer audiences entertained while talking about all this dry stuff. So, ladies, gents, and others, funny stone man. The Greek myth of Sisyphus was famously cited by French philosopher Albert Camus. As the story goes, the Greek gods confined Sisyphus to an eternity of pushing a boulder up a hill, only for the boulder to roll back down upon reaching the top. What makes this divine punishment so excruciating is that Sisyphus is fully conscious throughout and is constantly reminded of the futility of his actions. But Camus notes that in spite of his turmoil, in spite of gods and a universe he cannot control, Sisyphus has control over one thing, the boulder that's presently in front of him, and getting it as high up the hill as he can. In that control, he finds meaning, and in that meaning, he finds joy. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Camus used this myth to tackle what he described as the fundamental question of philosophy, which is the meaning of life. He claims that the act of pushing Sisyphus' boulder is a form of absurdity, the parts of life that lack reason and purpose. Camus rejects every manner of living that rejects or negates the absurdity of life, be it through intentional death, religion, or otherwise. He argues that true purpose must be attained by embracing the constant battle between a mind that desires and a world that disappoints. Only by accepting absurdity and finding fulfillment in the present moment can we create our own meaning and purpose in a world that refuses to make sense. It's not easy to accept absurdity. Despair can overwhelm us. The cracks of Mifse fall from the souls of those who can no longer cope with absurdity. Supernatural winds from the factory seal those cracks, and Sagami worships the sacred wolf as signs from the gods. Wolves are revered in the Japanese religion of Shinto as divine messengers of the gods, while also being worshipped as mountain protectors throughout Japanese history. But to believe in a higher power is also a means of rejecting absurdity. Sagami only seeks to enforce his cultist imagining of the world and impose control over Mifse under a religious guise, even if it means separating an innocent child from a mother and father. That is no way to live your life. So, what is? How does one truly embrace absurdity? What am I living for? Maboroshi offers us one answer, and it lies in possibly the most absurd absurdity of them all.
好き、痛い？痛いけど、なんていうか、スイートペイン。
Masamune Kikuri loves Mutsumi Sagami, but he's always hated her as well. That doesn't make any sense, but it never needs to, and yet it does. Is this burning sensation one of desire or of a nagging hatred? His chest aches all the same, filling his waking moments with thoughts of her. In a universe parallel to a reality in which their adult selves fell in love, under a sky, forever trapped in winter, these teenage illusions found a love of their own. What am I living for? Maboroshi's answer is to embrace the ever illogical present, even amidst pain, to surrender our futile attempts at finding lasting control or complete understanding of a world that fails to make sense, of a tomorrow that remains an elusive mystery. Life is not about cowardice and running away from the hurts that we cannot comprehend. Life can be about love just as much as it can be about heartbreak. They are two sides of the same coin and will stir our hearts either way. This is our burden to carry up the hill that we call life. It hurts, but what a sweet pain it is. Amidst the irrationality of our existence, this sweet pain reminds us that right now, in this moment, we are alive.